Hello and welcome to a Kooky Corner of YouTube. Today we are going to be making a Christmas pudding bauble. So you will need, not in the picture shown here, but a polystyrene bauble as your base. You can get any size you like. I use a 6cm diameter one. You will need some felting wool in two different colours. So you need a chocolate brown and a creamy colour. You'll need some felting needles. You'll need some felting glue. You will need some felt in two different colours of green and some glitter glue if you would like to add an extra bit of glitz to your piece. Okay, to make our Christmas pudding bauble, we're going to get a length of this beautiful chocolate Corriedale fibre. I'm going to try and separate it out and hold it down and gently, again gently pull it. If you pull too hard it won't come, like I'm doing now. You have to hold it down and pull it gently like that. Okay, so we have the length of our fibre. I am now going to use my dog grooming tools. If you've seen the last video, you will know the details on these. You can get carding tools. I find these work for me because, as I say, I don't use them as often as I should to enable me to buy the expensive carding tools, but the dog grooming tools work pretty well. So I'm just going to, because the Corriedale is rougher, not rough, but it's rougher than like a merino wool top. So Corriedale's got more of a crinkle to it. I'm just going to mess it around a bit with my carders, dog groomers, whatever you want to call them, and just to give it a bit of give me a bit of a nest base. This is what I like to do with my baubles in order to get a nice finish on them. So I'm just giving them a fluff up. So I've got a nice fluffy nest of fibres. You can see there. I'll pop those down to one side. Okay. Separate it out into a nest. Pop my polystyrene bauble in and roughly kind of fold the fibres around. Obviously you don't want gaps, but any gaps that you do have, sorry about that, that was a piece of packaging that decided to ping. Any gaps you do have we can fill in later anyway, but what we're going to do is kind of just roughly get so we've got everything covered. And what I'm going to do now, I have got my needle felting tool. This is a needle felting tool with 5 barbs on it and a protective edge. There is one with 3 there. You could use a singular needle. It will take you a lot longer, I must say, but it is possible. So if you've got an amount of time where you can do that, then obviously it's doable. I, on the other hand, am going in with my 5 needle tool, literally stabbing it in. You can see the little where the needle holes are, yeah? Going through, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, cover this over with the wool felt. If you have any gaps when you've done it, there will be some spare bits that we're going to pull off. So if we've got a load of excess, you can just pull off what you don't need, like that, literally, very gently. And we can fill in any gaps later, but I will show you that when I come back. So I'm going to give it its base cover and then we'll come back and have a look at how we deal with any gaps. Okay, so I have finished needle felting the base and I'm checking around to see if there are any places that need extra needle felting, such as there maybe. Giving it a quick pounce with the needle felting tool. And also, if you can see like small areas where it's quite thin, you've obviously not got enough on there. All you need to do is grab a small sliver of your spare wool, lie it on top and just pounce it in. It's really simple. I'm not going to worry too much because this one's going to have another layer on, because as a Christmas pudding it needs its sauce, doesn't it? So it needs some sauce. So we're going to make the next thing we're going to do, sorry, I'll stop pouncing for a second. The next thing we're going to do is to make some sauce that will go over the edges of our bauble, and then we'll make the decorations to go on top. Okay, so I've come back now with my needle felting mat. It looks like a huge scrubbing brush, doesn't it? It's a clover felting mat and it's a brush, which is quite nice. Obviously whatever you have will be fine. A sponge or something that you can felt onto. And what we're going to do is, I've got my saucy colour of felt and I'm going to lay out some strips of it onto my felting brush. I'm just laying them out now onto the felting brush. So that's out onto there, and now I'm going to lay a layer of wool over the other side as well. So it's going two ways. And we can make this as thick or as thin as we want it to be. But for now, I'm just going to go with that and see how it goes. So all we're going to do now, using our tool, is to pounce it to get a base fabric. Now this is maybe going to take a little longer. Sorry, I'm joggling you around, guys. Let me lift that up. Literally just pouncing up and down into that wool on the bottom. I'm going to lift it off and turn it over so that I can do both sides. And I'm going to try and get myself a kind of a pre-felt. I'm going to get it to a stage where it's a little bit like a pre-felt sheet so that we can then add it onto our bauble. But what I want is something that I can maybe shape a bit with a pair of scissors before I lay it on. So this is what I'm going with at the minute. So I'll be back when I have finished this. Obviously, if you get any thin areas, add in a little bit more wool until you've got something that's more of a pre-felt. It's holding together. That's what we kind of want, but a little bit more. So I'm going to keep going at this and I'll be back in a minute. So what I've got now is kind of a very loose pre-felted piece of felt. Obviously it's easy to pull apart, but we don't want it to be so felted that we can't add it in. And basically what we're going to do now is to cut a sauce shape out of this with a pair of scissors and then lay it like a little hat on top of our bauble. So I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors, cut out a shape, so sort of eyeball it and see where you might want your sauce to be. So obviously it goes down in drips and things, so you want to be cutting out a shape that will kind of drape over your bauble, but also you can go up and down with the scissors just to give you some drips like you get if you poured sauce on your Christmas pudding. So I'm going to grab a pair of scissors. Oh, it looks like a little face. Hello. Hello. Yeah, it looks a bit like Boris Johnson at the Sorry, Boris. So what I'm going to do now, cut out my shape, my saucy shape out of this, and then I'll show you how I lay it on the bauble. I'll just pop that over there for now. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I've cut out my shape. If you can see, it's kind of wobbly a bit around the edges. And what I'm going to do is lay it on top of my bauble decoration. And I'm just going to literally felt it in on top. I'm going to spend some time doing this, shaping it. If you've got bits that are sticking out, just tuck them in a little bit and just keep felting away at it until you've got the shape that you want. And I'm going to continue doing that, and I'll be back when I've finished going round and needle felting this all onto my ball. Okay, so I'm back with my ball of needle felted Christmas pudding saucy topped goodness. So yeah, I've gone around, needle felted all the sauce on the top, tried to make the edges as crisp as possible, which the scissors might have helped with, but sometimes they just leave little bits that fleck up, so you just have to kind of trim those off afterwards. But then we have the Christmas bauble. What I want to do now is add in some of the decoration that will go on top. Now I have these two little felty holly leaves. There are loads of patterns for holly leaves on the internet. If you do a quick search, you could probably draw your own one out in a pretty simple manner. I've got two different shades of green, so I'm going to add those on and just felt them in to the top of the bauble, and just to hold them in place, to kind of grip on the top, because the other thing that's going to hold this in place is my bauble holder. So if you see, I've literally just quickly done that, just pushed my needle felting tool in a few times just to keep them held on. And what I've got then is one of these little bauble holder hanger thingamadoos, for want of another word, bauble hanger, let's go with that. These I got from Amazon. I'm not sure whether they still have these, but they've definitely got some. If you're looking on eBay, I'm sure other people will have them as well if you do a search around for bauble hanger. And basically it's the bit that you put into your bauble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and push this into the top. So bear with me while I fiddle around for a bit, because it gets a little bit fiddly, but not too bad. And it kind of goes, let me try not to go through the needle, goes into your polystyrene bauble. Let me push it in a bit further that way. It kind of needs to go in. It is easy, believe me. Look, there it is, it's gone in there. You just need to get both of them at the same time. So it's a little bit fiddly. It's a little bit fiddly, but it is doable. So we just have to kind of do it gently. I'm trying to brush. There we go. So now you've got your bauble hanger in there. If you wanted to be extra safe, you could go in with some of your felt and foam glue just to go on the underside, just to make sure that they don't come off. And then the pièce de résistance, people, we're going to put some little felt holly balls, felt balls for the holly berries. So I will be back in 1 second and I will show you how that will go. Okay, so now to create your little balls, you can either grab some red wool tops, roll it up into tiny balls, and then just needle felt it on. I luckily have got some of these little tiny little pom-poms, which is also an option. These are little wool ball pom-poms, which I'm now going to attempt to stick onto my bauble. So this is a different kind of craft glue. This is a beacon, which I say there's two different kinds. So the two different kinds that I know of. There are probably lots of others. The ones that I use are the Aleene's Felt and Foam Tacky Glue or the Beacon Felt Glue. Both are equally as good and work really well. I think the Felt and Foam Glue is particularly good for maybe the funky foam. I think that's also meant to be used for that. In fact, they're probably about the same consistency as well. So I have my bauble. I'm going to dip my berry in and stick it on top. It's quite strong, this glue, as well. Once it's got a hold, you need to let it dry for a time. I'm going with three little berries to go on top there. And if you can see, that's quite attractive. Obviously you can still see the glue now, but when the glue dries, that will be clear and you won't even see it at all. But I'm going to leave that for a little bit, And just for an extra touch, because you know I'm extra, I'm going to put a little bit of glitz on this as well. Yes, of course I am. So I'll be back and show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm back again. Just put that lid to one side so I don't get glue everywhere. Also try not to stab myself, so I'll put those over there. Right, okay, I'll get this out just for the purposes of setting it on a firm surface. So these are my glitter glue of choice. I use these on my artwork, I use it on my cards. These are like my just go-to glitter glues because there's not so many in there. I don't like the big glues because they tend to dry out, and I don't use an awful lot of them, but when I do, these are the ones I'll go for. So this one is Stardust. It's a Stickles, so it's a Ranger Stickles Stardust, and this one is a Ranger Stickles Shamrock. I don't know if you can see that there, Shamrock. And I'm just going to literally, hopefully this works without me having to poke it with a needle. Sometimes if the top gets stuck up, you have to stick a needle down it. So I'm just going to literally just put a little bit of glitz on my leaves. You can do it in a pattern if you want to. I just like to just maneuver it around with my finger a bit like that, and then just a tad on the berries just to sprinkle them off a bit. So it looks like they've been out in the snow. Who'd want their Christmas pudding out in the snow? I don't know, but you know. So I might just put some on my finger and smear it on because I'm messy that way. So a little touch of that onto the top of my berries, and that's it. All we have to do now is get a piece of thread, attach it under there, and then you have a little Christmas pudding bauble to hang on your tree. Move all these wonderful things out of the way. I use a pearl embroidery thread generally for my hanging thread, but you can use whatever you like. You can use baker's twine. I tend to find that the thinner ones are better because it makes your bauble dangle. It makes your bauble dangle just that little bit easier. So there we have it, a little Christmas pudding ornament for you to, you can either make a few, give one away to a friend as a present, or hang a few on your tree. And there's no calories in these, so way to go. Have a wonderful week, people, and I will see you very soon with another Christmas decoration for you to make and maybe give away or just keep forever. See you soon.